Wow, this isn't scary at all. It's a 1920s piece of electro-medical apparatus that claims to generate artificial sea air, ozone in other words. All the advantages of the sea air may be obtained in the home, in the office or in the sick room by the production of pure ozone from the ultrazone. Portable Model A illustrated. Price £9 9 shillings. That's about £500 in relative terms to the current era. Ultrazone is recommended for all chest and lung complaints, bronchitis, asthma, etc. It kills the germs, purifies and revitalises the air in the sick room, a safe home remedy. And it shows Mama there stuffing her hands into the electrical lamp holder while the children watch in anticipation, and wee baby down there may explore it later on. There's lots of places wee baby can stick its fingers in and get electric shock off this. The Standard Ozone Co. Haymarket, London, 1920s, £500. Laurie Studios. I wonder if they did the brochure. Anyway, you open it up. I'm going to have to fill it back for this because it is quite a big unit. It hinges open to reveal a port in the middle and these big gold stickers that say Ultrazone and Standard Ozone Co. Haymarket, and then all the patent numbers of their special secret thing. If you open it up further by removing the screws, it reveals some new wires that I've stuck in for test purposes, because this thing is designed to operate at a couple of voltages. Let me show you the side of it. Lots of moving about here. There's the input socket, well, plug, on the side, and there is the polarity selection. I thought this twisted originally, but you take this screw out and then you turn it round and then you put it back in. It's pluggable links, 200 volt-ish and 100 volt-ish, AC or DC. I think it certainly works in AC. I've tested it. On the other side we have a knob, a turning knob with bare live bits down here, and a switch that breaks the circuit in a very odd way, and we've got these lovely ornate feet. And the underside of it, it's kind of doesn't look so pretty, but it's clear that they've all been handmade, and this one has been stamped the serial number. Is that 86 or 98? There's text here. Oh, I'm not sure what that says. Is the person who made it, have they signed it? Oh, I may try and decipher that later on. That is quite odd. Anyway, let's take a look at the inside, because that's the bit we're interested in. And because this is not easy to illuminate with the bench lighting, because it's quite deep, I shall add extra illumination in the style of this light. Now, notice these very modern capacitors. The original green capacitor here is printed, well, stamped on the side, 1 MF, 1000 volts AC. I think that's 1 microfarad. It was showing 220 nanofarad, not producing great results. That might actually be down to dirty electrodes, but I've replaced it with two 1 microfarad capacitors in series to give 470 microfarad with discharge resistors across them and equalization resistors. Now there is a coil in here. This is the main interrupter coil, and there is down here, you may be able to see a little metal strip down there that is the interrupter strip. And it's got a contact on it, a bit like a electric vibrator, so to speak. Doesn't sound right, but you know, it was from the same era, let's face it. When you turn the knob on the side, you may see things rotating down there. You can adjust this backwards and forwards to touch that vibrating contact. And the idea is that when this coil is energized, it pulls in that coil, contact, and breaks the circuit and then releases it and then energizes again. It basically vibrates, making a loud buzzing noise, as you'll notice in a moment, because I'm going to power it up. That then pulses. Well, I'll show you the full schematic afterwards. There's two windings in this. There's the main winding and a tap, midpoint tap, this one, that means you can use it at a lower voltage. But what happens is that every time the contact's open, it puts this capacitor in series with that high voltage coil down there, and it's got a small number of turns on the outside here and then high voltage in the middle. This is very much handmade. This is the interesting bit because it is very high voltage. And then when the contact closes again, it doesn't just energize this, but it shunts that circuit that had been charged up and produces a high current pulse through the primary of that transformer that then creates a high voltage between an outer metal mesh, a kind of glass material, cylinder, and then the inner metal mesh, which is connected with these insulators to keep it all away and avoid it sparking across, but it does still spark across. Let me bring in, I wonder if we're able to see the violet and the sort of glow of this. I'm not really sure. Let's bring in the electrical tester. I had fears that the high voltage spikiness may upset this little Chinese tester, but it didn't. So this is good. So I'm going to stuff that wire in there, stuff that wire in there, power it up but not turn it on straight away. And I'm going to power it on and we can see the power it uses. So at the moment it's displaying about 245 volts. Let's get this wiring away from the high voltage zappy sparky bits. And I shall set the knob to about there and then turn it on. This is going to make a lot of noise. I'll just warn you in advance, this is going to make a lot of noise. It's not too bad, 5 watts. Now, if I push this into the middle here, and I turn the light off, take the exposure off, are we going to be able to see? No, we're not. We're not going to see that. Oh, that's a shame. It was worth trying. I thought you might see the purple glow, but it is very faint. The light's about to come back. Watch your eyes. I can smell it. It's stinking of ozone. And if I turn this knob in a bit more, oh, it starts arcing and sparking across. Okay. Right, I'm turning it off. 5 watts. Oh, this is stinking of ozone. Oh, it's absolutely honking of ozone. It works. Right, I shall disconnect these. Right, time for the schematic. Has that been really loud? I hope not. There's not much I can do about that. It's a vintage piece of ancient electrical equipment. I'll put that down there and bring in the schematic. And I shall focus down onto that. And then I shall lock that and zoom in so we can take a closer look at the circuitry. It's very simple, as stuff like this tended to be, because, well, it was the early days of electricity. They were still experimenting. They claim it can be powered from your battery bank, your accumulator, or by plugging it into your main socket. I'm not sure if it would have been AC or DC in the sockets at that time. I think Edison and Westinghouse with Tesla were still having their fight, AC versus DC. Edison lost. Tesla won. Yay, go Tesla. Live comes in, AC or DC apparently, and it can switch between these two connections. There's no on-off switch over there, it's over here, and it's a bit strange how they've implemented that. It's a very strange thing indeed. So the live can switch with the link system, a nice solid link between the 100 volt supply or your 200 volt supply. If you put it to 100 volts, it's 171 ohm impedance on that coil. But there's another section, 341 ohm, that gives a total, when set to the 200 volt setting, of 512 ohms, which is quite high. I did measure the power factor. It's 0.28. Well, great power factor. What do you expect? I'd be more worried about all the radio hams shaking their fists in the air and shouting about the electrical noise I just generated. So this is a vibrating contact down here, and this moves backwards and forwards as indicated by these arrows against that adjustable contact. The switch is in series of that contact, which is very strange because it means you turn it off, it still can pass AC current through the capacitor and the high voltage transformer. A bit strange that. I thought they would have put the switch maybe here or there, but they didn't. It was the early days of electricity. They did what they could. The person that built it was probably a man with a beard or a moustache. That's just that era. Quite like that, to be honest. So here's what happens. When you turn it on, this contact is initially closed and current flows through this big coil, through the power switch, through the contact, and it basically builds up a magnetic field in this iron core. And the iron core is just literally a bunch of iron wire just clamped together as a big core with the windings around it. When the magnetic field reaches a decent level, this contact pulls in, and when it does so, it breaks the contact here. And at that point, the coil is de-energized, but not before. Current flowing through it has charged this capacitor via the very low impedance primary of that high voltage transformer. When the current is dropped, well, the magnetic field in this core is dropped to a low enough level, the contact closes again, and it does two things. It energizes this circuit again and starts building the magnetic field up, but also, when it closes, it shunts this capacitor down to the other side of that coil, creating a short circuit, and pulses all the energy stored in this capacitor through this primary winding, which is a very low impedance. This was just, I'll put in 1 MF, 1 MF, because that's what it was marked, 1 kV. When it does dump that, it generates a high voltage on the high number of turns on the secondary side, probably has multiple layers. That is a impedance, a resistance of 135 ohms measured with the meter, and that then applies across the dielectric separator ozone generator, which basically is the two metal meshes with the layer of what appears to be glass in between, and because the spark can't jump straight across, it capacitively couples, and I think there is a bit of resonance when this shunts out, and you get this capacitor being slammed in line with this coil here. I think it does actually oscillate, not sure. But that does result in fine sparks as the energy tries to find its way across, and it capacitively couples, and you get that sort of purple corona discharge. And the process of that is that the oxygen is O2 is formed of two atoms of oxygen, and it can split them apart. They can recombine as 3 atoms of oxygen, and that's ozone. It's unstable. It will revert back to oxygen or whatever, or neutralize things by oxidizing them. That's what creates the desterilizing effect. They were wrong, though, about the seaside. It turns out that the smell at the seaside was not ozone, even though it's very similar to ozone. It turns out it was some sort of biomass in the sea that just creates this smell. It's probably basically plankton fart, probably. But that is it. It's quite a neat unit. It's very attractive. The advertising is even of that era, with the mama stuffing her hand into the lamp holder there while the small children wait in anticipation of being cured of their diseases with electricity. Just connect it to your electric light or wireless accumulator. But that is it. The reason they were connected into the light is that's how they connected things back then. There were no real sockets. They just plugged everything into the lamp holder. That's the era of the electricity. But that is it. The standard ozone, ultrazone, vintage, 100-year-old medical unit.